All right, question of the day. Should we sell guns to the left? Should we train the left? The only reason that this is even a topic is because the left has traditionally hated firearms. They've hated firearm owners. They work in legislation to try to stop our Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. And although I voted on the left, I've never been a gun grabber and never been in favor of gun control. My idea of gun control is if there's a gun around, I want to be in control of it. So most of our gun stores and most all of our training, personnel are of the Republican, conservative, right-wing, Christian family kind of variety. So I guess I'm asking the moral question. Conservative gun shop owners, conservative firearms trainers, do you feel like it's morally right for you to arm the left? Because we know that Antifa is buying weapons. We know that people are arming themselves on both sides. And let's forget about the constitutional or legal ramifications of it. But, is it a good idea? Well, you are providing them with the basics of war because the number one rule of a gunfight is have a gun. But I'm not one of these people that thinks that you shouldn't sell guns to the left. And here's why. It's not for any good moral reason. It's purely selfish. So I understand that owning a gun and being a gunfighter are way different. They are two completely different animals. It is true that merely possessing a gun, especially without training, is absolutely going to put you in the position of being more in danger in many cases than you were if you didn't have the gun. Here's why. Guns give untrained people a false sense of security. It makes them think that they're stronger than they are. Let me tell you briefly a quick story about my first time shooting in competition in front of people. Now, the old man was a Marine. I grew up knowing how to shoot. We talked about tactics and self-defense all the time. Various people in my family taught me how to fight. I considered myself a pretty dangerous guy. I was right around 30 years old when I decided to go to my first competition and shoot a tactical handgun match. So I went to an IDPA match and I learned all the basics. I watched everybody do it and they made it look so easy. I stepped up to do it and, something kicked in here, and it's peer pressure. It made me nervous. And in many ways, performing in public is a lot like combat. No, it's not, but in some ways it is. In the fact that it elevates your blood pressure, it elevates your heart rate, you get the sweaty palms, you break out in a hot sweat, you kind of get the fugue thing going on where you're confused and you don't know what to do. And being a musician on stage, I started so young, I don't really have that, but I know a lot of people have that problem. I don't. But on this day, I had that performance anxiety. I stepped up with all these great gunfighters. This was in Texas, and some of these guys were national champions. And I came out there with my little Rossi 357, in my little speed loader pouch I bought down at Walmart. And I did okay for the first 6. Then they started yelling, reload faster, they're killing you, they're shooting at you. There's 20 guys behind me. They're yelling, why do you have a 19th century gun in a 20th century gunfight? You're taking all day, man. I'd like to shoot sometime today. And this is coming from every direction. And I dropped the speed loader. I fumbled the reload. It was ridiculous. So that's how I got woke up that I did not know how to be a gunfighter. I just knew how to operate a firearm. Many times in my IDPA career, and I did help found I think it's one of the biggest IDPA clubs in Dallas-Fort Worth. And so I was heavily involved in this, and I would see a new shooter come in, be their first time. And a lot of guys down in Texas, they're kind of cocky, and it doesn't matter if they push pencils or whatever. They're kind of cocky, and they think they know more than they do, unfortunately, many of them. So I saw these, TV armchair warriors come in and shoot a match with us. And the first thing they do is, and get called down for it, is point their gun straight up. They've seen that on TV. No, don't do that. This is proper gun retention if you want to know the truth. It's here, or it's here, or it's here, or it's here. So these guys would come in, and man, they'd shoot fast because they'd see all these other guys go up, and it's bop, 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 and you're running, and you're changing magazines, and you're using cover, and these guys would go out and they'd do it kind of like the best they could, mostly tainted from movies and video games. And they'd feel pretty good, you know. We'd get the gun safe, they'd get back in their holster, they'd be proud of themselves. And then we'd score the targets. Miss, miss. And we'd have the guy on our elbow. We'd go, well, this guy killed you. No, the rest of these really even count because this guy killed you before you got over there to these other targets. Miss, miss. 5 down, 4 down. Failure to engage. Horrible shooting. Done very fast. You know, Clint Smith, when you go to Thunder Ranch, I've heard this, he has you write the word fast inside a circle and then draw a line through it. And he tells you don't shoot fast, shoot good. And competition will teach you that for sure. So I know, having said all that and told you that long story, I know for a fact that having a gun doesn't really make you a gunfighter, and you can sell guns to the left, but they're so far behind on the curve of training that they're going to be more dangerous to themselves. They're going to be overconfident. They're going to step into situations they're not prepared for. And when they'll do, they'll leave a perfectly fine firearm laying on the ground for people to pick up who know how to use them. Training, on the other hand, I feel very differently about. And it deserves its own video, but I'm already 6 minutes in, but I'm going to hit this as quick as I can. That I think it's immoral for people on the right to train the left. And here's why they do it. Because they have some fantasy ideology that if you introduce a person on the left, a Bolshevik communist, to firearms, that somehow it will magically transform him into a Second Amendment guy. Problem with that is they still hate the Second Amendment. They're just using it for their own ends. You know, the ends justifies the means. So they don't love the Constitution. They hate the Constitution. They want to take your First Amendment right away, your Second Amendment right away. They want to control everything and everybody in every aspect of life. They don't want you to make any decisions for yourself because you might make the wrong one, and they don't want that. They want you to make the right decision. So giving a Bolshevik a rifle doesn't do anything but to turn a Bolshevik into an armed Bolshevik. It's just a communist turning into an armed communist. They don't love the Constitution anymore because they like to shoot. And I think that ideology, that thought process needs to get spread around amongst people in the conservative camp. That you should hard guard your training. Don't just train anybody. I have trained a few people in my life, and I have done it very carefully, and I've only trained a few. And I tell you what, I leave a little notch in their training that maybe I only know where it is, like a back door, like a key, in case they ever turn it on me. I'll know where their soft spot's at. So I don't think you ought to be training these people, because an armed Bolshevik is dangerous. A trained armed Bolshevik is very deadly and is the worst thing in the world for our country right now. Train them if you feel like you need to. Think you can turn them. I don't think you will. They're brainwashed. They're stuck. Or they wouldn't be buying a gun to go up against the rest of us and force their ideology upon us. So don't train them. You won't see me giving detailed information on training here, really. I talk in generalizations. I'm not going to take a gun out and show you how to hold it, show you how to load it, show you how to... No. There's enough people on the internet doing that, and I hope most of them don't know what they're doing. And they probably don't. Last thing we need is trained Antifa coming after us. And I hope you agree with that. So sell them the gun if you must, but if you train them, I'm probably not going to come to your barbecue.